All right, welcome back to the Thursday Tech Training. Today we're doing DocuSign and commissions. So before I was gonna start here, but let's not. We're gonna start in command, but before we dive all the way into that, I wanted to just show everybody the resources. I like getting this on all of my videos so everybody knows what's where. But if you go to kwcentral.com, that's our Market Center website. You can go to Agent Resources, Tech Support and Training. You'll find my little spot on the website here. Different ways to schedule an appointment with me, reach out to me, and different resources that I feel like are relevant. So it's a great way to kind of start answering some questions if you have any, or if you just want to get in touch with me super quick, you can do it that way too. KW Central YouTube channel. All of these videos go here. They're all in little playlists and they're all color coded. I try to keep this pretty updated as much as I can. And I try to get these trainings on by the evening that I record them. Usually I can't quite get there and it happens the next day, but I do my best. So let's those. So today is sort of connected to, I suppose, day one, kind of, as in you can't get to DocuSign and commissions through command without going into an opportunity. On Monday, I talk about opportunities just as far as the moving part of it. In general, like what is this tab? What are we looking at? What's it trying to do for you? How's it trying to organize what you're up to? And then I sort of pump the brakes right when we're about to talk about going into DocuSign or submission or commission requests and all that stuff, because I feel like those two topics are more in depth. So I just kind of hit that on Monday, and then we do a bunch of other topics. We come back to the more in-depth stuff. So you would get to. So this is probably one of the more common workflows you're going to do in command. Even if you don't find yourself using command very much, you have to submit commission requests and documents through command using the opportunities tab. So I'm going to click through it a couple of times. It's the same no matter what sort of node or place that your opportunity is in. So you'll notice that like there's a little 1 here on these two. That means I've got an opportunity card in that spot in listings cultivate, buyers cultivate. And then once I click through into this, you'll see the different spaces in opportunities show up. So I could click here to appointment. I'm not going to see anything here because my thing is in cultivate. Now that's the one that we saw back here. So there's 2 ways to kind of get to the same spot. I can click through here, and then I could further navigate in here between those nodes, just as those circles were on the outside there. So the workflow I'm talking about as far as getting to DocuSign is this. You're going to find these 3 dots. You're going to go to the view details. We're going to go to documents. And you're going to go to transaction. And that's probably one of the most common clicks that most people click through in command, I would say. And you just should be able to sign straight into DocuSign from there. If you've gotten to my tech appointment, we checked yours, I think, the other day. If it's connected to command, it should just fit like a glove and you should be right in here. So I'm going to go through those clicks just a couple of more times, just so that people really are comfortable. I think last time I recorded this, I had to accidentally do it a bunch of times, so everybody got to see it like 15 times. So if you start from the home page, to get there, you're going to go to opportunities. You're going to find your opportunity. You're going to go to the view details in these little 3 dots, then documents, and then go to transaction. And that's going to take you into DocuSign. We'll do that a few more times today, just naturally, but that's a workflow you definitely want to make sure you know it well, because this is how you find yourself in DocuSign. So there's 2 flavors of DocuSign. There's DocuSign Rooms and DocuSign e-signature. You can switch back and forth between the 2 of them here. There's not many reasons you need to go to e-signature unless you're doing a lot of template work, which is something that we could learn about, but there's enough to learn staying in Rooms. But just know that if you've got a previous DocuSign account that was not affiliated or associated with command, it was probably an e-signature account only, which is why it can't be attached to command and it's not KW related. So some people are, if they've got a lot of documents in a previous account and a different email, connecting that can be, it's not always compatible. So Rooms, DocuSign Rooms is, I don't know if it was designed for command or for real estate. I don't know the backstory of it, but it connects to command really well. And you can think of a room as sort of DocuSign's way, DocuSign's way of saying an opportunity. The way that when command says opportunity, DocuSign is saying room. And it means the same thing. It's the same space for a particular transaction where you're going to organize yourself, where all the documents will be in DocuSign, will all be in the room associated with whatever the listing name is, which you'll notice is the exact same name here, unless you were like me and you changed your names after you connected it to DocuSign. So that's why those two aren't linking up. I should probably make that updated so I don't confuse people. But when you create the opportunity with the opportunity name, you create the transaction, it'll have the same one. So one room, one opportunity. In DocuSign, I'm trying to find the best way to do this because this whole process is kind of circular. Like you bring in some documents, you send them, they go all everywhere, and then you go back to command and all this stuff. So let's start back here in command. And we're going to see in the document section all of the documents that we need to worry about. So it would be over here is the checklists. You would choose whatever sort that you're in. So residential, listed, under contract, and closed. And you'll notice that all of these checklists change depending on what checklist that you're in. You're also going to notice that there's this little submit to MC button over here. Each one of those has its own submit to MC button for each list. So as you're updating documents and you get a checklist all filled out, and we're going to go over how to get those documents signed and how to get them back into command. Like I said, this process is kind of circular. So it's like jumping on a carousel. We're just going to jump in right here. You'll know what documents you need to use here. You don't have any to submit yet because we're going to pretend like we haven't submitted any documents, but you're like, okay, listed, I need to worry about the working with real estate agents document. So we're going to go to transaction. I'm going to close that down. And I'm going to take every opportunity I can to click the go to transaction button just to make sure that it's completely memorable. So once you're in here, you're in the documents room. You are going to want to send somebody the working with real estate agents document. Now, I don't think I have access to it because I'm not licensed. So I'm probably just going to pull in some random form, like the W-9 or something like that. We're going to pretend it's the WWREA or whatever it is. All right, whatever you crazy realtors call it. So you'll go to add, and you're going to go from DocuSign forms. And right now we're in the documents section of your specific room. And we want to pull in the template that we want to send out. So if you haven't put in your NRDS number, you're going to notice that all of these say no access. So we're just gonna hang on for a second there and show you how to get access to that. So pause button. If you didn't put in your number, you would click up here. You would go to preferences. You would go to integrations. You would go to add provider. Click the blue Realtor R. Put in your number here, your last name, and then you're going to select North Carolina. Hey, get back here. North Carolina Association of Realtors. Right? Where'd you go? There it is. And then you would hit validate. I don't have an NRDS number, so I can't illustrate what happens next, but I can tell you about it. So we'll go back to rooms. And at that point, when you go into your documents, all those no accesses should be gone. Now, here's a great example of something that you can do if you get lost, because I have a bunch of rooms in my DocuSign for different reasons. And maybe I know which one I'm going to, or maybe I'm not feeling super confident, then I'm going to go to the same one that I just tried to. So if you're ever feeling like you're not 100% sure which one of these you were trying to get back into from clicking that go to transaction button, close DocuSign and click the go to transaction button from the opportunity you're working with, and you're guaranteed to be in the proper room at that point. You know you're in that space. Love that go to transaction button. It kind of, that's if I'm talking to people through it, and then that's one of the things I want to try to cross off. Are you in the right space? Use that button to get you there. Also, you can go to DocuSign like DocuSign.com and sign into your account and open a room. But if you don't use command to do it, it won't connect to command later on when we want to move the documents from DocuSign to command. So let command open a room for you. If you haven't opened a room yet, I think it'd say something other than go to transaction. I don't remember what it says there, but it says like create transaction or something. It's in that exact same spot. Just click that button no matter what it says. All right, so after you put in your number, we're in our document section. You go to add DocuSign Forms again, and you'd be like, hooray, all of these things don't say no access anymore. You can choose whichever one of the ones that you're supposed to work with. You've got different libraries down here to work with as well. And then these are the ones that you need access to. So let's see if I can find something that's not totally boring. I don't know. That one. Add selected. All right. So up here, the I found the folder button is a little joke and a reminder to me to show you how to organize yourself in DocuSign Rooms a little bit. I've got these different little drop downs. Room Docs is where everything will go by default. So when you bring in a new form, it's going to drop in there. If you send out an envelope for sign and it comes back signed, it's going to go into Room Docs. You can move it from Room Docs to other folders to keep yourself organized if you choose to, or you can just leave everything in Room Docs. It's whatever works best for you. You can add a folder, not with the add button. That's a trick. It's the actions button, add folder. And then I found the folder button again. It took me forever to find that button. I'm not gonna lie. Like I knew you could do it, but I had no idea where it was. So I think you can just click and drag them over if that's what you want to do. If you're working with a bunch of documents, like if somebody sends back a signed package of like 22 documents and you don't want to click and drag 22 times over, you can select the little boxes, however many there are, and then right click and go to move. And then you can go, it's going to say destination. And then it's going to ask you, are you staying in this room? Are you going to some other room? So it's going to sort of like a logic chart. I'm going to go to folder in this room. And then it should say, I found the folder button again, move it. And all of those will move up to that one. So for an example, like for me, I'm doing a lot of the onboarding with you lovely people. And when you send back the onboarding package, I get like 22 documents. So if I'm on it, all 22 documents show up in the Room Docs, all sort of isolated on their own, right? No one, unless two people send me their onboarding package at the exact same time, or if I'm not there in time to organize it, then there'll be 44 there or something like that. But if you know for a fact that all of these documents are the ones you want to select, you can go to Actions and select all, and then move all of it to another folder, which is what I do when I'm working with DocuSign and onboarding. If I get a whole package, like if yours came, I think yours came in, I just selected all, made a folder that said, Dimitri, and I just moved to that, and that's where it lives. So that is all organized now. When I go in to DocuSign and look at everything, it's all organized by name like that. Now there's a second functionality there that we'll talk about later when we're bringing in documents. We have to tell command what folder we're looking in. And if you're not organizing yourself by folder, you just have to remember to tell it, look in the Room Docs folder, because technically this Room Docs is a folder. It's just a folder name that you can't change. And it's the only folder in this room. So logically speaking, that's what that's asking. All right. Do I need to slow down? Because I get kind of excited talking about DocuSign. I talk fast. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
I guess the only question I have is, let's say that I want to be proactive and I want to have paper copies of all these documents on hand in case I have a client that isn't real tech savvy and they would prefer to have documents in hand and be able to actually hand sign these. How do I obtain those? I go directly to North Carolina.
You've got some choices. So it used to be that you would see like a watermark that said sample kind of across all of these forms as of maybe like 6 weeks ago. It was pretty recent. And what they were doing is you would have to go into DocuSign, put in your NRDS number like we just talked about, and then you had access to the library. And then if you brought in, like some contract, it would say sample right there, no matter, and you would be doing it exactly right. Nobody did anything wrong, but it was there to prevent you from printing out blank documents. I don't know why somebody made that decision, but somebody decided that was a security feature that they needed to include. To get rid of it, you used to have to open that the document and put anything at all on it, like type in the person's name. The sample watermark would go away and you could print it out. Now, the only reason I'm telling you that is I don't think this will be necessarily relevant to the two of you, but if you open a DocuSign room before they made that update, it won't go backwards. It was from that time period forward. So if you have a room that was open, older than 6 weeks ago, you'll still have that sample watermark, and that's how you would make it go away. So if you've got, a DocuSign, room that's been open for a minute and you're still seeing that, that's why. But now what you should be able to do, Renee, is open up, just like we showed, you go up here to add whatever forms, and then you should be able to print it. I have 3 selected. I think that'll bring up 3. It'd be pretty cool if it did. Nope, looks like it's only doing, oh, there it is here, 1. Let me close this up here. What are we looking at? Okay, so I've got the 1 selected. We're gonna look at this W9 form, which is hopefully blank. I'm gonna have to do a lot of blurring on YouTube later. Oh, good, it's got all fake stuff on it. And then you should be able to, other actions, I think there's a way to print right from here. Name, edit, move, copy, email, fax, download, and print. So that's how you could go about doing that. So if you want to bring in whatever copies of the documents that you need to print, you just bring in all the ones that you want, and you can do what you want to with them from there. You can print them or download them. They should just print as is at this point.
Okay, so, and I may have missed this on previous trainings that I haven't looked at or attended, but I have to create an opportunity before I can go in there and get to these documents?
The sort of best practice answer is yes. You don't have to, but if you do it the way through, if you do it through command, everything will stay connected, and all of what I'm teaching will work properly.
Okay.
So I would say yes, go through command, open an opportunity that's connected to a contact, and then go through that tab, and go through that go to transaction button that we found a couple of times. And then that'll open a room for you that's pre-labeled with everything. Bring in whatever documents you need, and you can print them out from there. Now, if you are looking to just have sort of like a dummy pile of documents that you can just print from quickly and easily, is that kind of the idea?
I just want to have like on hand, like a folder of all the needed documents in case I go to a listing or showing and, the conversation switches over to like, okay, this is going to be a done deal. And they, I need to pull those actual paper copies. I just want to be prepared.
You can make a dummy opportunity. If you don't yet, make sure that your own name is in your contacts list and create an opportunity under your own name.
Okay.
And create a DocuSign room that way, and then put whatever documents you want in there.
Okay.
And then you can just go in and print all of those blank ones, and you can go back. Like if you're on and you're in the situation you were talking about, whatever document you happen to have used like that, you can just go back to your room and replace it. And you can just have that room open just for that reason. That might be a solution. There's also ncrealtors.org. I like telling people about this because it's kind of a backup plan. So you go to ncrealtors.org and go to Business Center, and you go to Transact. There's forms and contracts here. And if you want to use them, where is it? Forms library. I think it asks you to sign in, which you'll still need your NRDS number for. Contracts form. Oh, can I just see them now? How did I do that? I must be signed in under somebody. No, just says sign in. Why do I have access? Something must have changed. I might have to download all of these. So anyway, you can get them here too. So you can go and click there and have a blank copy that way too. So in a sense, you don't necessarily have to create a room. Oh, there it is, member login. I knew it was a trick.
Okay.
So you'd have to log in. And the screen should look the same for everybody. And just username and password. If you don't have one, you'll do a get started. It'll ask for your number. Same motions as any other profile. But if you set that up, you can go to ncrealtors.org and just get all of the contracts that way too, and just download them straight that way.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
So, all right. So to kind of recap where we are now, we had a contact, we created an opportunity. That person needs to sign some forms now. And we got to DocuSign, we put in our NRDS number, which you only have to do one time. You don't have to do it every opportunity, just to activate it. You brought in the form that you need to sign, so now you need to send it to somebody. So we're going to use this thing that they call envelopes. You're going to take, the idea is they're trying to make it sound like you're taking this piece of paper, you're going to shove it in an actual envelope to send out to somebody. But the way that you go through setting that up isn't as intuitive as I would like it to be, but once you get it, it's easy. So you don't want to go, if you go to envelopes, there should be nothing there unless I've got a tester one, but if it's a brand new opportunity, there would be nothing there. These are from previous trainings. So to send an envelope, you would want to start in your documents, whichever one that you brought in that you need signed, you click the little box, and then you want to create an envelope. And over here is another DocuSign trick, just like says add folder, there's no folder to add, you have to use actions. You have to not use the envelope shaped icon for envelopes because that's email. You have to use the pen shapes icon to go to an envelope, which is weird to me. I feel like that was a weird decision that they made. If I could go back, if I could send one little critique, I would say make the email an @ symbol and make the envelope an envelope. Come on. This is confusing enough. Anyway, so you're going to want to name your envelope. I did finally actually find a place where you can see all of your envelopes that you've ever interacted with. You don't really need to be there unless, I mean, I'm sure you could tailor a situation where you'd need to filter through all of that, but generally speaking, you're going to look at all of your envelopes organized by room. So just where I was before, where I clicked from documents to envelopes, you can see any of the envelopes that were in just that room. You're going to want to name your envelope something that makes sense to you, so that you can look at that whole list of envelopes and know exactly what's in there without having to fuss about it, but having to click down each list looking for whatever it is you're on the hunt for. So give yourself a clue. So the envelope name should be, everybody thinks about this. Every time I have a class, someone comes up with a different way of thinking about it. So some people call it like WREA, even though you might include multiple other forms in that envelope, you know the way that you work, that when you send out an envelope with that in it, it's probably got this, that, and the other thing in it too, because you know yourself, right? Some people just call it like round one, I've seen, or A, or just come up with a way that you can identify it from another envelope, because they all just say please DocuSign. If you don't change them, you're going to open up all your envelopes to look for something, and it's all going to say please DocuSign. You're going to have no idea where that form is, and you have to click each one and look for it. So do yourself a favor and name it something. And try to be consistent about how you name it, so that no matter what room you're in, you're using the same system. You can figure out, okay, I know I always do it this way. And if you ever, hire an admin or something, you can train it because it's consistent.
And also auto populates too. So like for mine, I had like kind of like I think I named it fire. If I type in a B, then it'll automatically start.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, depending on, I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I've seen down here populate up, and I think that might be sort of like browser related a little bit. Some of it is, some of it isn't. So if you're signed in and you're synced, I feel like a lot of those things work a lot better. I don't sync to public computers, so I'm not synced to this one. That's a whole other discussion we can talk about if somebody wants to know about that. Nonetheless, naming that envelope, you've got what you brought into your envelope right here. You can take a quick view at it. And I should apologize, pump the brakes, and go back one step, because I skipped talking about what I call the boring stuff and the exciting stuff. So right here in 123 West Main Street, Durham 27701 is what I call the boring stuff. This would be what you could pre-fill out the form for before it goes out for a signature. It's not in any way unethical. In fact, it's probably preferable for you to put in the address before somebody signs it. Right? So that's what I call the boring stuff. The exciting stuff is when we arrange all the colorful boxes and assign them to everybody, and they click to sign and all that stuff. So we close that. Let's go back one step. We'll go to save and close here. So you can save your envelopes and come back and work on them. So if you've got, if you're trying to get ahead, you can pre-pack some envelopes and send them out when you're ready. Well, let's go to the documents. When you bring in one form, you click it here. And this is where you fill out the boring stuff. So where it says 123 West Main Street, I can change it here now. This is where you change that. I'm really gonna watch my shift key. There, save and close. Let's see if it updated in the envelope. I've never tested it this way after once I put it in there, changed it over here and gone back.
Also, where you do like check boxes and stuff like that too.
That's the exciting stuff. So this is just the boring, anything that you could put on the form, anything that a typewriter could execute is the boring stuff. Like a typewriter can't sign anything and it can't automate fields or anything like that. But you can, if it's just literally putting text in, like any of the places that have been, any of the places that the template has been informed that you should be able to modify in that way, which is a really convoluted way of saying, click there and do the boring stuff. But we'll go here. I remember naming it, and here's a great example. We just did WWRA. I know that's the one that we were looking at. Let's see if it updated here. I've never tested it like that. This is where you change that. Cool. So it does update. As long as you haven't sent the envelope out and they've signed something, then it becomes sort of like, okay, now it's hardwired because this is now an official document. Somebody has signed it. It's not going to update anymore after that. All right. So I've had the form back there. I put in the boring stuff. We packed the envelope. I named the envelope. The boring stuff is filled out. We got to know who we're sending it to, and we're going to send it to a pre-tag role. Pre-tag roles are the whole reason DocuSign is fantastic. Otherwise, you've got to do all of this work all of the time. So what they're saying here is if I brought in a form and I made a template, I could bring up that template and it would just be a PDF. It would be a piece of paper on the screen. Nothing would be anything about it. No checkboxes, no radio buttons, no signature field, nothing. On the template, I could move all the little like blank text boxes around, just like we're going to do in a minute as far as assigning people to it. But what this is saying is somebody has made a template and they've said that 4 people at most can interact with this document. And it can be up to 4 or any combination of those 4 people are going to go out and interact with this document. So when you select all 4, there's going to be 4 different color codes of boxes that have been activated for you to move around, and then you're going to send them out in that order. So we'll say, let's say all 4. Seller 1, seller 2, listing agent, listing broker. It's going to populate 4 different boxes here. Each one of these people has boxes on the form we're going to see in a minute that are assigned to them in the appropriate spot. So where the seller 1 is supposed to sign, he's got a box there, or they've got a box there. And listing broker has a signature only in that spot on the form because whoever set up the template took the time to make sure that that was true. Now, in this step, if you only need seller 1 and seller 2 to interact with this stuff, then you wouldn't have assigned these people. And that would remove those boxes from this instance of what you're sending out in the envelope. You still got the template in your pocket. You could bring it in just like you would expect and assign all 4 people to it for packing a different envelope, etc. So what's cool about this step too is that you can automate the order which with everything gets signed. So let's add one more pre-tag role here just to illustrate that. This is probably like the simplest screen that has the most functionality I've seen in any tech, because there's like 5 sections in it, but it's got a lot to know. So you can assign right now, it says 1, 2, 3. People are going to receive this envelope in that order. 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. All 3 people are saying they need to sign. Who are they? You've got to say that. So Joe, Jack, Timmy. And they have an email address. joe@joe.com. We're just going to put some emails in there. Now you have to put an email address in there or the envelope won't send because it's an electronic program. If it doesn't have an address, you can't do anything. So make sure that if you get in the program that's just like, I can't do it, and you get this error, it's one of the things to check is to make sure you got your email filled out properly and it's valid, that they all have one. So now what I've got is 1, 2, 3, it's sending out to all these people. You can change what each person's conditional interaction with the document will be. So one person might need to sign, another person needs to view, another person receives a copy, let's say. Needs to view and receives a copy are slightly different. So we'll just talk about that in a second. You can rearrange things here too with those little 6 dots. The little numbers can get a little buggy on you, so just be patient. 1, 2, 3, or you can make that 1, 1, 2, whatever step it's going to be. So this is saying seller 1 and listing agent are both receiving the copy at the same time. And once they have satisfied whatever they're supposed to do with it, that'll move on to seller 2, and so on and so forth with that logic. 1, 2, 3. So here, seller one, Joe, needs to sign. When Joe, the first person who gets it, signs it, it'll move to the next number available. Listing agent, in this case, Timmy, will receive a copy. Now, that just means it hit Timmy's inbox. And that's all it needs to do to satisfy it. So step one and step two are going to happen like as soon as Timmy, or as soon as Joe clicks I'm done, it's going to be like Timmy Jack, because it's just going to send that email and move on. Now, if we switch these two, the slight difference is that, all right, Joe signs it, that's done. Then it's going to go to Jack. And it's going to hang out there until Jack actually opens the document and looks at it. Then that's been satisfied. Once that happens, it'll move to Timmy, who receives a copy, and that's that. So you can kind of see how the logic function works here. I can come up with a bazillion other examples, but I feel like I'll put everybody to sleep. But that's how the logic of how that works. You can add a passcode to it per person if you wanted. You can add a private message per person if you wanted. If you're going to add a passcode, make sure that what you don't do is put it here too, because whoever receives the email will get this passcode, but then the key will be right with it. So it's like locking up your bike, but then duct taping the key to the seat too. There's no reason to do that. So you want to go ahead and say like, text me for the code. And it's that sort of like double verification kind of thing. And then they'll text you when they get it, you send them the code, and you've got that extra little bit of security. Somebody needs that for some reason. What's that?
Like, why would you want to put code?
I don't have an example for that. I don't know. If you're not sure of someone's email address, or if they're in a shared email, if there's like, I don't know, off the cuff, depressing example of a divorce situation, but they had a shared inbox, maybe, I don't know. I'm sure there's better examples than that. But I don't honestly, I haven't come up with a solid reason why, but it is an option, which is nice.
So hers, isn't hers like, it's not her name, it's
Front desk.
front desk.
Yeah. So she's got sort of a position email, but she doesn't share it with anybody. But I think when that was created, if Kim left us for whatever reason, which I hope never happens because Kim's the best. But if someone came in and sat in her chair, they would inherit that email address. So that's how that would move. No, but there are some, I think like client care is shared between Ashley and Emily, something like that. There are situations, I suppose. So yeah, if someone's sharing an inbox, that could be a reason. Renee, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that that we recently did a refinance on our home, and the company we were working with, they're using Service Link, I believe it is, and like all the documents that we've had to review and sign, we actually had to go in and create like an account. Like we had to use our email and then create like our own password. And every time, there's like a new document that we have to review and sign, we will get an email, and we would actually have to click on a link. And once we clicked on that link, we would have to sign in, and then we would have access to all the documentation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In this case, I think it'll hit their inbox, and it'll get like a beautiful little DocuSign email that says, click this link. You all did the onboarding with me. So you probably got, I can't remember if you got this version, but Renee, you might have still been doing Macromonas with us when you onboarded.
I can't remember.
If you just get a little email, it's got a big yellow button that says, please DocuSign, and it takes you through. I don't think you need a sign in for it the way that you're describing. So again, this could be another layer of security for that.
Okay.
So and you can, if you made a mistake, you can discard those choices. All right, so we've got everything in there. We've labeled everything. We know who's going to need to do whatever they're supposed to with the envelope, and in what order, if any. If you trust your automation, some people aren't comfortable with that. You can always just do it one at a time and just keep resending it. If you would like to have that more hands-on approach, and some people are more comfortable with that. Down here is exactly what you think it is: the email subject and the message. Make sure that you are saying something in this email line that identifies you as someone they know, because the DocuSign email looks a little bit automated. So don't just say like, please DocuSign, and then whatever the form is, they might just think that's spam, possibly, unless they really know that they're expecting something from you. So you might want to say something like, my name, here's the documents we talked about today, or whatever it's going to be, something that makes it a little bit more personal, so that they know that, okay, I know, Renee is, and she was going to send something over. It's not going to just be something that they swipe off of their screen. All right, so you get everything up here set up exactly how you want it, and you go to next. And this is where what I call the exciting stuff happens. If you're setting up a template, the screen you're going to interact with will look almost identical to this one. It's got different functionalities here and there, but for the most part, this is what you would be seeing. So let's see what we're working with. So we've got these different signing fields here. So right now, Joe is labeled as yellow. Seller signature, the date he signed. So that's saying when Joe gets this, he'll have to click this box and this date signed will pre-populate as the, whatever time you open this document to interact with it. Oh, why can't I see the other people? Let's go back. Might be. Yeah, we'll go to need to sign. You're absolutely right. It's because I didn't tell them that they need to sign it. So let's go to next. So seller 2 and listing agent, we're going to say everybody needs to sign. So now you can flip through the 3. So again, color coded, you'll see all of the different colors for each person here. It's a good way to kind of illustrate this. If you've worked with like a design editor, like pictures and processing that stuff, a lot of the shortcuts work here too. So you can select a couple of things at the same time and move them around. You can hit Control Z to move it back. You can select this and hit Control C to copy it and then Control V to make a bunch or undo it. So you've got a lot of those, shortcut functionalities there. One of the ones I think I like, is it going to be here? Is I don't need templates. If you select a couple of things, you can justify, which is nice. So if you like things to be in nice straight lines, like if this got a little crooked, you hit that. Boop, it would line it up along the top one, or I could go down here and line it up across the bottom one. So if you're trying to keep square lines, there's a quick way to do that. You can change the colors of these things like that. So if you put one in the wrong spot, or if you just put a bunch of date signs out there and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to put that all for Joe, you can just click it and go, okay, that one's supposed to be for Jack and this one's supposed to be for Timmy. And that's how you can arrange stuff like that. You've got different signature fields over here. So these are reasonably self-explanatory. There's signature, which looks just like those boxes. You just bring it over. If you're trying to cram it in somewhere kind of small, it gives you the option to resize it. So you can keep it looking nice. Initial is, exactly what it sounds like. It's sort of like the less than 10 signature for you all to apply the way you're supposed to. Name, this one, especially with onboarding documents, I kind of hesitate to use this one too frequently, especially if there's someone that might very likely have a nickname that they go by or a middle name that they go by. What that's going to do is that'll populate, in this case, this one. So if we go to recipient preview up here, that'll just say Joe, because that's what I typed in the name of that box over where I put in the emails. That's where it draws that information from. So it'll just say Joe. But if that guy's full name is like, Lazarus Joseph III, and it just says Joe here, he can't change anything about it. So in order to get around that, sometimes, like if you're not completely sure that the name you popped in isn't their legal name, you might be better off just moving the text box in and letting them type in their own name so that they don't have to go back and they have the option to change it. I think you can actually pre-fill this out too. So this is the name. Put that in there. So if you're trying to save them time and you have time to spend, you can pre-fill the field out for them, and then they can also correct it if they wanted to, if you did it wrong. So there's some options there, but just be aware that if you use that full name field, you're kind of locking them into whatever that populates as. Email is the same thing. It's going to populate as whatever email you assign to the pre-tagged role. Company, I think once we get into stuff like this, we're going to talk about that in a second. We'll go back to details. In the commands tab, there's a details tab, and in DocuSign, there's a details tab. All that stuff you can fill out, and it goes in both directions. We'll talk about that in a second. Check boxes means you can check as many or none of a field as you like. So you can leave them all blank, or you can check all 3 or just 2 or whatever it is. And as opposed to the radio button, which is you must choose only one. You must make a choice and it must be only one choice. You can make things required and not required up here. So if someone's like initial here, if you want to authorize monthly payments of whatever, you can bring in the initial field and say that it's not required, and so on. There's also conditional formatting and stuff, but I feel like that's a little beyond. Let's see here, drawing format.
Yeah,
approved
those are
decline.
the check boxes.
What's up?
So when you do the check boxes, and typically like what I'll do is I'll put it like under my name, or whatever. So when I go through signing the documents, I would actually have to physically go in and check it. Now, is there, I noticed like if you just like hit the little button over on the side where it says start, and then it takes you to all your signatures or whatever, it skips over the check boxes
Yep.
because it's optional.
Right.
Is there a way to make that not optional and where it will just go ahead and
I think there is. So if you bring in a checkbox group, make it nice. Down here, validation, select at least one. And now it's required that they choose at least one of the checks. So again, that gives you a little bit of a different functionality, because if I sign, now it's required. I have to choose either this one or both, or, at least one needs to be checked. But it will bring that, again, I've seen that too, where like if there's something optional, but they should probably have read it, it kind of gives it that, it'll stop there because people are just poking boxes and not reading necessarily. But yeah, so check out the over here in validation, select at least one, select at least two, 0 makes it, optional. Trying to think if there's anything else to that.
and
I think that's it.
where was that at?
So you would put in the check boxes,
Right.
you go to validation,
Oh, you gotta highlight it first.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
and you have to, and then also it can be a little confusing because I get caught on this too. If you bring in the check boxes, you've got them there. No, I didn't do it this time, of course, because I'm teaching it. Checkbox. I've got it here and it'll be there. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I find that if I expect validation to be there, it's because something else was clicked. If you click out of it and highlight it, it brings up the menu you expect. Also, if you're selecting different kinds of fields, you'll have different options. So select only the thing to get what you expect. Yeah. Pre-fill tools. This is pretty helpful. This is pretty much for you to fill out. So this is sort of like a typewriter. Did I spell it right? Let's find out. So in a recipient preview, it's going to look like essentially you put in more of the boring stuff. So if there wasn't a template there that had a field for you to fill out, or if you forgot something and you want to just put it in there on the fly, you can use the pre-fill like that. And it'll just show up like this for anybody that's interacting with it. It's not a field for them to click. It's just, it looks like someone typed on the paper. So you can use that. And then the pre-fill tools, there's a couple of tools that can help you out. So if you know that they need to check this thing, you can check it for them. Radio button, name, I'm not really sure what populates with the name. Let's see what happens. Is it going to be me? I never tested it. It does. Okay, so that'll populate your name. Cool. So you can use that for that. And then this little strike through, I think, is like Teresa's least favorite function in DocuSign because you're modifying a contract by using it. But you can like strike through something, which usually means you should probably be looking at something like the initials too. But I'll leave that to everybody in compliance. Stay legal, talk to Teresa, make sure you're doing it right. But that's what all those little fields do. All right, does anybody have any questions before I move on to like what happens next?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, so once you have the form, you've arranged all the boxes to the person they're supposed to be arranged to. I would say go to recipient preview. We've been there a few times, but I want to point out one detail that I didn't show you. DocuSign thinks in a sort of like player 1, player 2, player 3 mindset. So when all 3 players are looking at the document at the same time, they're color coded. But when you're sending it out, there's only one person looking at it at a time, and player 1 is always yellow. So if you switch to Jack, Jack is the only person looking at this document in this preview. Therefore, he's player 1 and all of his fields are yellow. He's still signing exactly where he's supposed to be signing, seller 2. So if you switch to Joe, Joe was originally yellow. It'll still be yellow. Don't panic. You notice that it's popped up when they're still in the fields where they're supposed to be. It's just that everyone's going to be yellow because they're the only person looking through that particular perspective. So just note that. You can get, if you know someone's using a phone, you might want to click over to the phone preview. There's a tablet preview here too. So if you're arranging a lot of boxes yourself, you might want to just double check, make sure they're not overlapping or look really awkward, and check that way. I would normally click send here, but I put in a bunch of dummy emails and I don't want to send them out to joe@joe.com or any of that. So you would normally just hit send here when you're done and out it goes. And it's going to go through whatever automation you set, just like you set everything up. That 1, 2, 3 needs to view, needs to sign, whatever that is. And in the places that you arranged here. So I'm going to go back. And if you wanted to, you could take it as far as we just talked about. You can go to save and close here. So if you know that there's an envelope that needs to come, you know, it's gonna happen pretty soon, you can set it all up, and then when it's time, you can send it out there. So you can get ahead of the game that way. All right, so we're gonna say you sent out an envelope. If you've got DocuSign set up to the defaults, it's gonna send you an email when someone has viewed the document. They open the email and it'll say has viewed, and then you'll know that someone has, you know, interacted with it. You can be confident that they got it and that they're aware of it. And then it will show up as, I think, like awaiting signatures, a little blue. You know what? We'll just go over to my other rooms because I think I've got a bunch over here. Onboarding paperwork. I'm gonna have to gray all these out, I think, but whatever. All right. So you can see a couple of different examples here where it doesn't say anything at all. Someone here has viewed it, but they haven't signed it yet. Completed means it's been signed. Voided means I didn't need it anymore and I voided it. This still hangs out in my envelopes. If more than one person is signing, if the first person signed it and it went to the next person, it would say like in progress. And I think it's got a little yellow icon there. But you can see like the status, excuse me, all that stuff. Oh, we're gonna say we lost our room. So we're gonna go back over here. We're gonna go to transaction. So that's the best way to find your space. All right, so when the envelope comes back, it's going to send you an email and you can look at the documents straight from that email. You can also come through here and it'll be in your room docs. Organize them however it is that you need to organize them. I'll move one over here, just so we have one in each folder, because I can show you the next sort of thing that's gonna detail on that. Like I said, organize it how you're gonna do it. You're gonna get a little certification that shows everybody that, you know, what time they did a thing and when, you know, so if someone's like, I never signed that, you've got this extra backup thing of like all the times that person has signed a thing. So back in command, so you had this person, you sent them out the documents with DocuSign, the DocuSign, you know, did all this thing, now it's back in your DocuSign. You need to put it into command so that you can submit it to compliance. So here, we're in like listed, you're going to tell it where is it looking for this document, because this is grayed out. So it wants to know, where am I looking first? Am I looking in DocuSign or am I uploading it from your computer? We're going to do DocuSign. And then it's like, okay, am I looking in room docs? I found the folder button. I found the folder button again. And here's a little detail that I want you to see. See how like it highlights in blue? And then you see the again down there highlights in blue. Technically, that's all the same button because it wraps from one side to the other. Now, the reason I'm pointing that out is because when you're searching through, once you tell it what folder to look in, all of these open up and you can find, let's give this a refresh. It doesn't have everything I expect. If the name of your document is gigantic, it's going to wrap around like that. Room docs. Let's go to here. Here, these are nice and tidy, so they don't go very far. But if you've got one that's the name is, you know, like offer to purchase, and it's got like an alphabet of numbers and letters and crazy talk, and it's going on forever, it's going to wrap around like that, but it'll all show up as one button in like a block. So if you're kind of lost in your menu as to which one you're selecting, let the highlight kind of show you which one is one. And then as you move down, highlight the next one, you'll see what the next one is. If you keep all of your titles kind of short, you won't have that hurdle to jump through. Or if you choose to use the room docs thing, like you saw here with the different folders we were looking in, you can also have fewer things on any given panel to find. So there's just some ways to kind of get around that, a little bit of frustration. Once you get the thing in there, you just click it and it's in, and now it's in command, and command's just going to hang on to it. Once you've filled out the whole checklist and you're confident, like 100% confident that compliance is going to be like, hooray, you did a great job, you're going to go to submit to Market Center. I'm not going to click that because if I do, I'm going to accidentally send some, I don't even know what document that is, as a working with real estate agents only. None of the other fields would be filled in to compliance, and compliance is going to be like, who is this clown? and I'm going to get a bunch of notes back, and they're going to be like, you did it wrong, and you're not an agent. Get out of here. So just know that once you click that, though, it kind of locks it in. It's going to turn gray. It's saying the mysterious building of compliance people is reviewing your documents. I don't even know where they are, but they're going to review everything, and they're going to hang on to this in lock mode because they need to look at that package without you messing with it, essentially. So you're going to submit it there, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to send you back notes if they, reject things, if they need to change something and unlock it, and you'll be able to modify it from there. But do notice here that this little submit to MC button is blue. If I go down here, this next one is gray because each one has its own submit button. So you can be working on all three, and when you get done with one of them, you can submit just that list and still be working on the other two as you go.
And we're supposed to do this like as soon as it's like everything's been signed.
I don't know the legal answer to that. I imagine as soon as you've gotten everything, if you've got a form that's complete, you should put it in here. And when you've got a checklist that's complete, you should submit it. Would be the logical progression of that. Now, I don't know as far as like, if there's like time limits to how long you have to submit to compliance. I feel like that's a thing, but I don't know what that is. Again, that might be a question for like Teresa or Tiffany. I don't know. It's been weird, especially with all the snow on the ground and COVID going around. Everybody's like sick and afraid of the ice. But you can always call the broker hotline too. Do you have that number? Okay. Yeah, that rotates. So you can always give that someone a call there and just ask them those kinds of questions. That's why it's there. And I don't think that, I think there is no stupid question sort of a mindset on that too. So it doesn't have to be like this monumental question for you to have to call that line. I think it exists so that they can keep people moving. Okay. All right. Renee, did I go too fast on any of the stuff? Are you feeling good about it?
No, just one quick question. So if we do happen to have paper copies and handwritten signatures, that needs to be uploaded in Command, correct?
That's correct. You'd have to find a way to scan it.
Okay.
And then you would, you have some choices. It depends on how you're organizing yourself. If you're choosing to use DocuSign as sort of a way to keep a history, then you're going to want to scan it and upload it to DocuSign so that things are all in that spot. Because if you're the kind of person that wants to look at a transaction from 2 years ago and you're going to check DocuSign, then you're going to want to be confident that you've always been putting those things into DocuSign. So you're going to want to upload it to there and then upload it to Command and the steps that we showed. Now, if you're not necessarily going to use DocuSign as an archive like that, it matters a little bit less, and you can instead just scan it to your computer, and then you can attach files from here, my computer, which they call manual, and then hit browse. And at this point, you're going through your file explorer, and you can find whatever scanned documents from wherever on your computer that you have uploaded to make Command that way.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you want to keep a record on your hard drive, you can do it that way, and then upload it manually. That also enables people to use, if you choose not to use DocuSign, you can download documents that way and still interact with Command. I think a lot of people like to use .loop. I think a lot of the older school agents are, .loop is near and dear to their heart. They never want to give it up. They love it for some reason. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I don't discourage using .loop for any other reasons other than I can't help you with it. If you use DocuSign, you have questions, I'm all over it. I can help you with any DocuSign question. If you have a .loop question, you're gonna have to make a friend in the market center that's using .loop, or I can, of course you can roll up a chair and, we can pick at it and do our best, but I don't know it that well. But yeah, if anybody starts to using a different document processing thing, that's how you can continue to do it.
Okay.
We're about to go over time, and I'm supposed to talk about commissions too. And I will, and I'll keep recording it so it's all in the same place. But if the two of you have, I'm going past my hour. If you two need to drop out, don't be shy. I won't be insulted. Like I said, I talked too long about DocuSign for sure. So for offers and commissions, let me take a look here real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything, even though I talked about a bunch of stuff. Oh, the details. We didn't talk about the details. All right. I'll try to do this in the fast way. Details here in your opportunity. You click the little ghost pencil and fill out all of the fields. Specifically, you want to make sure that the address is actually accurate to something that it can search for. So we're doing 123 Main Street, pick something from the drop down. And if it's not in the drop down, get in touch with me. There's ways to get around it, but it's almost always in that drop down. and then save it. And what it's then drew from like a record that has accurate information. The edited and synced thing means that I can click this and update it. Anything that has this button is a field that is connected to DocuSign. So if I refresh it, it will say it is now synced to DocuSign to specifically the room associated with it. And then there's another details tab here over in DocuSign. Move over to the DocuSign tab. Pardon me. These details are kind of the same thing also. It populates to this stuff and it syncs. So you can see it went to 123 North Main Street. You can also click edit here and fill out all of these fields that you can think of. And then make sure that you save it when you're done. What that does is when you're over here and you bring in a document, all of the boring stuff that knows to look at those fields will populate for you. You don't have to do that work on every single form. But if you choose not to do that, every time you bring in a form and you put in, whatever information in the details there that's connected to the two details that we just highlighted, it won't work for Command, but it'll work for DocuSign. If you fill it in the form where it says like seller one's name, it will go back to it'll populate in the details path. And then as going forward from there, it'll populate as you go. So it will build it'll learn as you go. Those are those little detail panels that can help save some time. Offers and commissions. All right, so this is a whole other thing. This might take me like 20 minutes or something like that. So, if you've got some coffee, this is, we're going for round 2. And like I said, don't stay longer than you should. So offers and commissions. This is where if we're in a listing, so we're saying we're receiving offers and we're gonna put them in here to kind of be able to compare them easily, accept them so that they populate into your stuff later on, or reject them if they're need to be. I've got some dummy ones here. We're gonna say that a new offer came in so we can go through the steps of that. I'm gonna call this one, what am I calling this one? We'll call it an initial offer 3. Create the offer. This is pretty straightforward. Follow the bouncing ball. You have another chance to change the name here, the offer date, close date, and then you're going to move on to parties. All of the stuff that's got that red asterisk is required. So name, this is the buyer because we're on the listing side in this example. The representation of that buyer, person, and then the seller, and then associate's name, who's representing that seller. If you fill out all the rest of that stuff, it'll only help you kind of compare the offers down the line. Here is a bunch of stuff that I don't understand, but it's a bunch of the different ways that they talk about the sales price and everything. This plus that is going to equal that. So if you put like 10 plus 50, it's going to say 60 because that all comes together. Same with the earnest amount, the option fee, all of these terms I'm imagining licensed agents are way more familiar with than I am. So just fill those out accurately as you can. And then you're going to move on to agent analysis. Now here is one of those questions where like, can somebody see this? The answer is yes, if you let them. But I also say if you're going to work with Command and you're describing, always work politely. Like I wouldn't necessarily call somebody like the bald guy or the short one. They may be looking over your shoulder at any time, but here, definitely make sure you're being polite. I know that there's probably some things that you can and can't say as far as describing housing, so make sure you're sticking to what you learned about that. But some pros, some cons, and stuff, and then this summary about pros and cons. Right, so then you're going to see. So now we have a third offer in this line, name, person, all of these things. And we're going to say, okay, there's a lot going on here and I'm having trouble figuring out what's what. You can select all 3 and go to compare offers and you'll get a rundown of what's going on. You'll be able to see, okay, these are the 3 offers I've gotten. This is how we can compare them. The prices, the cash, all of these different decision points. And then you've got your little notes here next to each one. You can also go email offer comparison and preview it. And you get this beautiful KW email that you can send out to your clients so that they can see the different offers. Now, remember, this is where they can see the pros and cons. So again, make sure you're saying things in your notes that you can stand behind, that you're proud of, and something that should be read. So that's how you can kind of communicate that, you know, whatever offer is chosen. You would go back to offers and commissions and accept one of them. So let's say we accepted this ridiculously low offer for some reason. And now that's, you know, that's been accepted. So you can change your response to that if you need to. And after that, you want to go to manage commission. This is where my understanding gets a little bit more hazy, but you can go through and however you set up all of your different things in command, you can set up here. However it is you're going to do it. It's not, yeah, it's not going to do much for you. It's not even going to get you a slice of pizza. These days, yeah. But then you're going to want to hit submit. This is that button that most people miss. This is what sends it off, I think, off to Ashley. And she'll take that information, you know, and once everything closes and everything is approved, she'll be able to, you know, process, you know, the commission check and all of that stuff. And after that, that's what I say, that happens on the other side of the wall. I share a wall with Ashley. All that stuff happens on that side. But do remember, you got to click that button for it to go through. And that's how that works. So I'm going to go back to offers and commissions, and I'm going to change my response to, yep. Boom, and now they're all back here. So I can always backtrack on that. But again, remember, once you click that submit button that we saw before, just like the submit to MC with the documents, that's kind of locked in and they're reviewing it. If you need to make a change to it after you click that button, it's kind of hard. If you submit to MC with your documents, you can ask them to release it. I think that they can, and that's fine, but you got to ask them to, or they're just going to bounce it back for whatever error is there, and then you can go back. But when you click the submit button to like the MCA, if you need to make a change at that point, I think you've got to call up Ashley and ask her to kind of manually change it on her end, and it may or may not reflect on your end. So that can create some problems too. So it's just, again, make sure you're 100% certain that you're ready to send that out when you click that button. If you want command to reflect appropriate numbers to you, like if that's important to you and the commission that you submitted changed, and that's going to change some of that reporting, I don't think that you'll be able to change it after that if it's accepted. Ashley can change it on your end so that in reality you get whatever it's supposed to be, but in command it's going to record whatever you submitted. So if you don't need that to happen, then you might need to scrap the opportunity and rebuild a new one so that it reflects accurately. So if you're interested in looking at like your reports over here and stuff like that, you might have to consider doing that. Notes is not something I fiddle around with much, but I don't know. I don't see people using it very much. If anybody has any questions on notes, I'm happy to try to explore that. But that was sort of the quick and dirty offers and commissions. Does anybody want to go back on something on offers and commissions that you want more clarity on? Yeah. How are you feeling about everything, Renee?
I think I feel pretty good. As far as the commissions, so that stuff is basically like manually typed in. You're not uploading any information. You basically just go in and do the add new offer and fill everything in.
Yeah, and again, if you went through the whole process step by step and filled out the details and filled out all of that stuff, whatever can pre-populate will. So like the address will be there because you've already associated the address. The name of the buyer and the seller will be there because it's part of your profile or it's part of the offer that was submitted. A lot of that stuff will move with it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
But again, every time you take a step in the process, there's a new detail that needs to be filled out. You'll have to fill that out for sure.
Okay.
I think that's all I got for today. Everybody feeling good? Cool.
Yes, this was most helpful.
Good, I'm glad. And again, you can always find me if you need help. Tomorrow, same time, same place, we're doing the agent website, the KW consumer app, and the command app. And hopefully we're going to say goodbye to the Kelly app before my class tomorrow. I don't know, that's just about done. But that's what I got. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
All right, thanks.